This is the story of a championship won in the shadow of one of professional wrestling's darkest moments, and why the man who won it still carries guilt about it nearly 2 decades later. June 24, 2007, at WWE Vengeance, Night of Champions in Houston, Texas. A wrestler named Johnny Nitro walked out as the new ECW World Champion without having been scheduled to compete, without having been on the ECW roster for even a full week, and for a reason that nobody in that building fully understood until the following morning. Section 1. What was supposed to happen? To make sense of that night, you have to start with what WWE had actually planned. The ECW World Championship had been vacated after Bobby Lashley moved to the Raw brand, so WWE built a 4-man tournament to find a new champion, and 2 men emerged from it: CM Punk, who defeated Marcus Corvon, and Chris Benoit, who got past Elijah Burke. Punk vs. Benoit at Vengeance was the match fans had circled on their calendars, a dream match by most accounts, and the plan called for Benoit to leave Houston with the title. John Hennigan, the man behind the Johnny Nitro character, had no stake in any of it, or so he thought. 1 week before the pay-per-view, he'd been drafted to ECW in the supplemental draft, and his debut on the brand had come just 5 days earlier with a win over Nunzio. A title match at the next major show wasn't something anyone had discussed with him. Section 2. 2 hours of pacing. Years later, on the Insight with Chris Van Vliet podcast, Hennigan walked through exactly how that evening unfolded backstage and what the experience felt like in real time. Around 3 in the afternoon, word started circulating that Benoit had arrived, and that someone might need to step in if he didn't. Hennigan didn't read too much into it at first. Veterans like Benoit didn't skip pay-per-views, and there was still plenty of time. But by 5 o'clock, the situation had shifted entirely, and Hennigan and a performer named Mordecai were pulled aside together and given a clear message. One of them was walking out that night as ECW champion. His own words capture the next 2 hours better than anything else could. "I spend the next 2 hours pacing, hoping that Chris Benoit does not show up." Benoit never did. Section 3. The match itself. What followed was 8 minutes and 3 seconds of professional wrestling that nobody in that arena had expected to see. Nitro defeated CM Punk by pinfall, finishing the match with a corkscrew neckbreaker off the middle rope, and the crowd made their feelings about it clear almost immediately. Chants of "We want Benoit" filled the building, and Nitro, staying in character, reported fired back with "You got Johnny Nitro." The announcers let the chant pass without comment. After the match, Hennigan cried in the ring, and in his post-match promo he told the audience, "ECW needed a go-to guy, and let's face it, I've been the top talent on every brand I've been on." As a heel championship moment, it landed exactly as written. None of them knew yet why Benoit's spot in that match had opened up. Section 4. The next morning. The following day, the full story broke, and it had nothing to do with a missed flight or a scheduling conflict. Chris Benoit had murdered his wife and his son, and then ended his own life. WWE's response was immediate and thorough. Nearly every mention of Benoit disappeared from their website, future programming, and published materials. The Raw episode that week had been built around a fictional storyline involving the staged death of Mr. McMahon, and instead of airing that, McMahon stood in an empty arena and clarified that his reported death had only been part of a story, before the broadcast shifted into a 3-hour tribute to Benoit. Once the full details of what had happened became public, that tribute was never referenced again. For Hennigan, the weight of it settled in fast. In the Chris Van Vliet interview, he put it plainly, "I felt like crap. I felt so guilty just for being happy with something that came to be because of the tragedy." Nearly 19 years on, he describes it as a moment he still finds difficult and confusing to look back on. Section 5. The title reign that followed. WWE moved forward with Hennigan as champion, and within weeks the character had a new name and a new identity. On July 17, 2007, the ECW on Sci-Fi program officially retired the Johnny Nitro name and introduced John Morrison, a character built around a resemblance to rock icon Jim Morrison and a more self-satisfied, preening persona. A weekly segment called the 15 Minutes of Fame became the centerpiece of his championship run. Any wrestler who could last the full 15 minutes with Morrison or beat him outright would earn a title shot. He held off CM Punk again at the Great American Bash on July 22nd, but Punk eventually survived the challenge, earned a SummerSlam match, and won the ECW championship from Morrison shortly after. A 30-day suspension for violating WWE's wellness program followed, closing out one of the stranger title reigns in the brand's history, successful enough on paper but impossible to fully separate from the circumstances that had created it. Section 6. Where he stands now. Hennigan has kept building his career in the years since, across WWE, Impact, Lucha Underground, AAA, and now AEW, where he competes as Johnny TV and operates as part of the MXM stable alongside Mansoor and Mason Madden, with additional dates for Ring of Honor. His wife, Taya Valkyrie, also wrestles for AEW. The championship list over his career covers the ECW World Title, the Impact World Championship, the AAA Mega Championship, the Lucha Underground Championship, 3 Intercontinental title reigns in WWE, and 6 tag team runs. By any reasonable measure, the career has been full. And yet when the conversation circles back to Houston and that night in 2007, none of the other titles seem to be what comes to mind first. What he keeps coming back to by his own account is the guilt of having been happy, genuinely happy, about something that only happened because of a tragedy. June 24, 2007, started as a dream match between 2 of the most respected wrestlers of that era,
and ended with a first-time champion crying in a ring while a crowd chanted for someone who was already gone. Johnny TV has had nearly 19 years to sit with that, and his honest answer is that he still hasn't fully worked it out. That's what makes it one of the harder nights to categorize in wrestling history.